Go, 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 go. Stop. Stop right here. Back up, back up, back up, back up.
On April 10th, Connor Sturgeon, a 25-year-old employee at the Old National Bank in Louisville, Kentucky, shot and killed 5 people in a horrific workplace massacre. Now, Sturgeon's family released a statement after the attack. They blamed his mental health struggles, but said they couldn't quite understand how he was capable of such violence. They revealed that he'd been receiving treatment for anxiety and depression, but said he showed no signs that he was planning anything as horrific as what he carried out. As the families of the victims and the survivors recover from this unthinkable act of horror, here's what we know so far. At 8:30 a.m. on April 10th, employees at the Old National Bank were gathering for a morning meeting before opening up to the public. Most of them were there in person, but some of them joined over video via Microsoft Teams. That's when Connor Sturgeon began to unleash terror. He burst into the bank with his AR-15 and he immediately started firing bullets towards his co-workers. Some of them were able to run for their lives, but others had no chance of escaping. Within 3 minutes, Louisville police were at the scene. They engaged Sturgeon in a gunfight, and he was shot and killed. There were 5 innocent bank employees killed in this rampage. Among them was Joshua Barrick. He was 40 years old. He's been described as a devoted husband, father, son, brother, and friend who would do anything for anyone and cherished his time with his family. Barrick was the Senior Vice President for Commercial Real Estate Banking at Old National, and by all accounts, he loved his job. While Deanna Eckhart, who'd worked in banking in Kentucky for 30 years, died in the hospital. Then there's Thomas Elliott, 63. He was also killed at the scene. And the governor of Kentucky credited Elliott with helping him grow his own law career. Juliana Farmer, another victim, had only been on the job for 3 weeks after being hired as a loan analyst. Aged 45, she left behind 3 children and 4 grandchildren. The 5th victim was James Tutt. Aged 64, he had worked at the Old National Bank since 2015. He was a proud Louisville resident and a family man. Now, while the gunman's family say that he showed no signs of violence, he appeared to lead somewhat of a double life, certainly amongst his colleagues at the Old National Bank. Unbeknownst to his parents, he had just been told that he was on the verge of losing his job. Now, some of his surviving colleagues described him as being extremely intelligent. Before being given his role as a syndications associate and portfolio banker at Old National, he spent 3 summers interning there. According to some law enforcement sources, the gunman wrote a note to his parents telling them that he'd been struggling to fit in amongst his co-workers. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, gun reform activists started calling for change again. In 2023 alone, there have already been 145 mass shootings in America. That's an average of 1 per day, according to the Gun Violence Archive. One of the unique facts about the Louisville shooting is that under Kentucky law, the AR-15 that was used by Connor Sturgeon to commit these killings could someday end up back on the streets. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg explained the law earlier this week. He labelled it absurd. So much about this deadly rampage remains unexplained. And the gunman's family now say that they plan to test his brain for CTE. That's the brain condition that can afflict many former NFL players and impair their judgment. It's caused by repeated blows to the head. Now, this gunman's family say that this could have happened to him when he was a high school basketball player. There are also questions about how he was able to legally purchase this weapon when he was receiving psychiatric care for anxiety and depression, and it remains unknown what kind of background checks, if any, were performed when he bought this AR-15 just 6 days before the killing spree. In the meantime, 5 families are grieving the senseless murders of their loved ones who were slaughtered in their workplace after showing up for another day of work. And there are growing fears about when and where America's next mass shooting will be.